Welcome, Thrivers, to this week's episode of Women Thriving in Business podcast. I'm so excited to have with me today our guest, Sonya Hopson, who is the CEO and founder of Sage Services Group, LLC. Welcome, Sonya, to the podcast.
Hi, Nikki. Welcome. So glad to be here.
Yes, so thank you, Sonya, for taking your time to be with us today. And we're just going to get right into it. So tell us about your business and how you got started in government consulting.
Awesome. Well, my company, Sage Services Group, LLC, we're located in Bowie, Maryland. We actually operate in two verticals. Our first vertical is in aerospace systems design. There we help design, build, and launch spacecraft. So, yes, in part of my life, we are rocket scientists. In the second half of our business, our second vertical, we work in the organizational development space, providing different types of HR services, project management services. And for that half of the business, we help design, build, and launch people, products, and processes into their proper orbit. Started about 13 years ago, was not initially set out to be an entrepreneur, but I was doing a favor for a friend of mine teaching a class on resume writing in one of our local detention centers. Yes, detention center, guards, bars, dogs, all that great stuff. But we walked in there to be able to just teach people how to do their resume and found out that we wanted to know what were the skill sets and what were their passions and where did they see themselves going, because it wasn't a long-term facility. It was anywhere from like 3 to 6 years. So where did they see themselves going? And people didn't have an answer. And talking to the director of that programs, we let him know that this is not really how that process works. You want to make sure that if you want to get people relaunched back out and ready to do something great in their lives and make a change, it needed a plan. And he wrote me a check and handed me a marker and whiteboard and said, "How would you do it?" And I did it. And that was how Sage got started.
That's a great origin story. Take us back a little bit before that. So, what were you doing before your friend said, "Come help us do this resume writing workshop"? Talk to us a bit about what you were doing before and how you were able to say, "Okay, this is a service that's needed," and being able to walk away from what you were doing then into launching the business.
Oh, okay. That's probably a less cool story, but I'm going to share it. I am an engineer. So, by education and trade, that's what I was doing. I had worked at a nuclear power plant for 13 years doing systems engineering and design. And I left the plant that I was working at and I came to NASA as a contractor. But the person that asked me to teach the class was a member of our church. And he knew that I used to do all kinds of programs. I was helping moms and dads that have been put out of the workforce get back into the workforce and helping people write their resume and tell their story and really talk about what they needed to do and help them unearth what it is that was great inside of them. And so when he asked me to teach the class, it was because of that, because we have been doing that with our church, we have been doing it in the community. And he said, "Man, people have gotten jobs they never thought they would have had. So could you please come and do this?" But yeah, for the 30 years or so that I've been working, and I can't believe it's been that long, the first 13 years, like I said, were nuclear power. And then I've been doing work for NASA since 2005. So almost 18 years doing space work.
That's fascinating, Sonya. So, taking some of the things that you were passionate about, and that's really what started your business. And so, you talked about working with a detention center. How did that go from you had this project with this detention center to translating that back to working with NASA and connecting it to your previous professional experience, as well as, again, what you were passionate about within that field? How'd you go from this detention center to, okay, now I work for a federal agency?
When we did the program for them, your resume is always just a ticket, right? So I see the world in systems. I see them as pieces being integrated together. So as we did that program, we had such success. We really reduced their recidivism rate and helped people really launch out. We were down in Southern Maryland. One of the school systems heard about what we were doing, and they wanted us to come in and do workshops for their youth and children that were at risk in the school system. Well, when we did that, there were tables that were turned and things that went well with the students. And what do students have? They have parents. And so when their parents heard about this is what you're doing, you start hearing people say, well, can you help me change? I'm in my career now. I think I need to go here. And meanwhile, the daytime, I'm still building and designing spacecraft. That's what I did all day. And then we were doing that kind of work in the weekends. We were helping people with test prep. And it was like the more people we helped, I started getting introduced to people that were in this GovCon world. And built a lot of the business. Actually, I've started the business in 2010. I built it on the side of my job for 3 years. And when I started building and it started to grow, and this is one thing I always tell entrepreneurs, you need to honor where you're working. Don't steal from where you're working because that kind of stuff does come back on you. When I launched my business, I went to my manager at the time and said, hey, I'm doing this thing on the side. It's really all about training. It's all about facilitating and doing workshops and stuff. It doesn't impact my work, but I want you to know about it because I am doing this full time. And if you ever heard about me doing this, I didn't want it to be confusion. And so he was great with it. And then in 2013, we won a contract helping, we were the project managers for one of the Affordable Care Act grantees. I remember back in that day, they were rolling out, doing all of the different workshops and doing the different training. Well, it was a nonprofit that won it, but they needed a project manager. And so I came on board with them. I left NASA kinda. I switched from being an employee to being an independent consultant with the company I was working for. So we tried to keep everything above board because do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So we kept everything above board. I switched to becoming an IC and ran that project for them. And as I ran that project, you start to meet more people, met a very good prime contractor, and she got me in the door at NASA Langley, being able to do some organizational development, organizational design for one of her clients down there. And then it just kind of snowballed. That's another relationship type deal, right? We might talk about it later, but I'll just hit it really quick. Is that having a prime that I partnered with, I delivered for her as if it were my own business because in actuality it was. And I'm so happy to say that we have been in relationship together since 2014, 2015. And we help her win, she's helped us win. And it got me into agencies that I didn't even think I was going to be able to get into and I didn't have an entree to. But that's how we transitioned from we focused on what we did well. We build systems. Getting someone from being incarcerated to in a career or in a school program where they can get an education is a system. Getting someone from a position that they're not happy with, getting a student, I mean, you and I both have children, getting our kids through 12 years of formal education to get them launched as adults, that's a system. And so it's just seeing the world as a series of gears and pieces. That's what we do at Sage.
I love that, and I love that analogy, and I think so often as humans, we think that we're going through unique experiences. We think that it's all random. I love what you just said, especially when you're dealing with your children. Yes, your child is unique, you have unique relationships, but it really requires a system for everybody to make it out happy, healthy, and whole, right? I think I recognized that early on, like, if we didn't have a system, then it was gonna be chaos, right? If we didn't have a
Yes.
system on how we get out the door in the morning, if we didn't have a system all these things that if you don't have a system, it does become chaos, and it's not as complex as we might think. So, as you're saying that about systems, talk to us a bit about how that translates to the work you do in building rockets. So, I'm sure there's a lot of overlap between building a system to launch a rocket and then building kind of those organizational pieces to, as you say, launch people. So, talk to us about how those two parts of your business intersect or just how you think about them coming from your background as an engineer. And I believe you have a degree in physics, if I'm not mistaken. So, talk to us a bit about how all that comes together in one piece. So, I'm loving this because, as you're saying, like helping someone launch, helping someone get their life back on track, raising a child. I mean, it is system, it is all about systems thinking. So, talk to us about how you integrate all of that to do maybe what we might see an actual launch of a rocket.
When you see a rocket launch, and it could either have people on it or it could just have some science satellite on there, there's a lot of people that put in to the way of making it work. I always tell people I brag about NASA because NASA is always like in the top one or two of the best places to work in the federal government. And the reason why I think that is because they recognize that no man gets to anywhere they need to go by themselves. So when you're building a rocket, there are a group of people who come up with the science concept. This is what we want to achieve. Then you have another group of people who are systems engineers that says, well, to achieve that, we have to build this component and we've got to build this item and we've got to put this piece on here. And then that group looks over to a group of people that are technicians that have the skill set to actually build and create it. And then they have a group of people who run testing facilities. So everything that the scientist wants that's in a component that's built by someone in the technician area has to be tested. And all of that has to come together in concert to make sure that it works. Well, the people that often get forgotten is that you've got a budget officer on every mission. You have people who do document and records management on every mission. You've even got the people who come in and move desks and things around so that you can have people sitting in the right place for the mission to come together. And then you have the group that we most often work with. They're the safety and mission assurance services offices. And what we do there is this being built such that it doesn't break the equipment or hurt people? The quality engineers are there. Does it meet the standard that we said it was supposed to meet? A reliability engineer says, if we test this X number of times, will it work? So you have all of these people in the room with different focuses and different strengths, but they have to work together in order for someone to sit down at Kennedy Space Center or at Vandenberg Space Force Base or in Guam, anywhere to sit there to make it work. And then you've got people who build antennas. How else are you going to get the data? So it's a huge network of people that come together. How does that translate into the other side of my business? We've gone into organizations and people didn't get along. And it was like, oh, well, this person doesn't like this person, and this person's not doing their job, and this person's not doing this. And what we are able to see and take them back to is, what is the mission of this organization? What is the mission of this group? We do a lot of contracts with HR, and HR catches a lot of the brunt of different things. It's because they're not always brought into the mission. When everyone is sitting at the table and they understand the mission of USDA is to do this, the mission at the Department of Labor is to do this. Our job helps put everybody back to the North Star, identify what is your role and contribution to making that happen. Now let's make sure your policies, your procedures, your operations are all aligned there. And then let's make sure we got the right people in the right place to do it. So that's how my brain has converged these two areas, because it's all about when people don't get along, you need to look for where the gears aren't meshing. I tried to put this round peg in this square hole and it's not doing what I need to do. It's not the people. Yeah, do we have personalities? Everybody's got personalities. But if you can make it so a person can show up to work to do the thing they need to do and they understand how they fit, and as a leader, we make sure they fit, you'll have mission success every time.
I love that. And what I'm really hearing you saying as a government contractor coming in, you really are, I'm going to say, expanding the eyes and ears of the organization in order to be able to put those pieces together. Can you talk a bit about the value of having government contractors come in? Government contracting, it's a lucrative business and everyone wants to be in it. And also, I think there's this perception of what government contracting looks like or what it is. So, can you talk about, from your perspective, how do you feel like you're adding value to the organization as an external party coming in and supporting government employees?
One of our core values in the company is oneness. And most of the time, people would think oneness is what it is with your internal team. Yeah, we have that where we all work together, we support each other to make sure we get done what we have to get done. Not saying we agree 100% of the time, but that's our goal, is to let's work together. But we extend that value to our customer. We do not come in and tell the customer, oh, you need to throw all of this out and you need to get rid of everything and we're smarter than you. We don't do that. When we come in, we work shoulder to shoulder with our government partners to give them the solution that they can implement. Sometimes, do we have an idea of what will work? Absolutely. But until you really get in there and you talk to them and you understand these are our limitations or these are our requirements, you could give them something that would totally disrupt their apple cart, and then 2 years later they're back getting something else. We never wanted to be that kind of government contractor. We want to be the one that when you think about, we asked for this, they helped us understand this, and then we were able to get this part done. And Sonia was 100% honest that all that we wanted to get done was not going to get done in this time frame. So she helped us identify what is the best solution, and we leave them with a plan forward. That's what good partners do. I take a lot of heat from some of my business partner peers of, no, you got to get in there and get all that you can and can all you get. I was like, I don't know if that works for me, because what I do know is they call us back when they're ready to do the next thing, because we leave them with connectivity. This is what you did. This is what we put in place. This is how you do it. And we train them on it. We lay it all out for them. Oh my gosh, you can't give away all your solutions. Mom, these are my tax dollars. I want the government to work better. I want it to be better. I want the people who are there to feel like they're part of something that they can have value in. Because what happens with that? We all end up with better services on the back end. Now, color me naive, but I like the fact that they call us back. I like the fact that they feel like we're trusted partners. That sometimes you'll finish working with somebody and they'll call. I really hate to call you, but I got a question about this. Why do you hate to call? I'm going to answer your question. I'm not going to get you in any trouble for the appearance of getting services you're not paid for. I'm not going to do that. I want it to work well for you. And we've had a couple of cases in the last few years where clients we worked with years ago, they called us back because we were committed to them. We had a oneness mentality that we weren't trying to take over. We want them to succeed. And I think that's half the battle in government contracting, is that it's easy for us on the business side to get amped about, oh, we won this contract and we're going to do this and we're going to make this money and do that. Well, how are you leaving that organization when it's gone?
That's an
Yeah.
important question because it sounds like this is what you do. You're building long-lasting relationships, not dependency, right?
Hmm.
So if you're helping them be better and solve today's issue or even tomorrow's issue, there's still going to be something new next week, next month, next year, 2 years from now. And I think building that relationship is so important. And the other pieces of that is people move around. So while you may be supporting a client over here in this part of NASA for you, they may move to another part.
Hmm.
It's how do you build that legacy of service and support that actually follows you to other places, which then makes building business a whole lot easier.
Absolutely. We've had some clients that have left government service and gone into commercial, and they've called us to come and help them on the commercial side. We've had customers where we've done work for them and they've asked us, hey, can you do ABC, XYZ? And it's not in our wheelhouse. They've trusted me enough to bring in other people. Why? Because I was honest enough to tell you that it wasn't in our wheelhouse. It's not what our strength is. We'll get in there and mess it up. That's best case is we mess it up. Worst case is like you'll totally destroy your reputation by promising something that you don't deliver on. And we
Right.
are able to bring in other businesses, other women owned businesses, other minority owned businesses, other non minority owned businesses. We want you to have the best solution. And so when it comes to partnering and working with people, we look for people to partner and team with that have that mentality. It sounds so naive, Nikki, every time I say it, but it's, if I have to just make this about a money grab, I don't think this is the place for me because it doesn't have value. Use the word legacy. The reputation of my team, the reputation of my company means a whole lot. You can make a whole lot of money and be a crappy person and be known as a crappy company. Then all you're looking for is the next person to take advantage of. And that doesn't help me sleep at night. It doesn't help me rest. It's out of alignment with my belief system. So I'm in it for the long game.
I love that. I know one of your big areas of focus is around your industry support. So, can you talk to us about some of the industry organizations that you're a part of and why that's so important to you personally, as well as how that's helped your business?
Oh, wow. Yes. We've been a part of, I'll talk about it as one is an affinity group called the National Minority Supplier Development Council, of which we're in the Capital Region Council, which covers all of Maryland, DC, and Northern Virginia down to about Fredericksburg. So it's a coalition of about 700 minority owned businesses of all varying size and shape, doing a lot of different services. Some of them are retail providers, some of them are in the financial and fintech, cyber, IT, all kinds of stuff, about 700 businesses. And I was recently selected as the chairperson of the Minority Business Input Committee that's within our Capital Region Council. And so we have a theme this year where we're focusing on operational excellence and growth. We are sold out and totally committed to helping minority owned businesses grow. We want to help them work well so that they can then grow. Remember about systems. If your company's not working well and you think you want to do business with Target, or you think you want to go and do business with Capital One or Lockheed Martin or any of the big guys, if you're not working at operational excellence, you'll get that opportunity and it will kill you. So we've been working on how do we build up minority businesses. No matter what your shape or size, everybody can always get better. And we learn from one another. We put on training, we put on programming to help you operate well, help you team with other businesses so that you can present a bigger picture to go into these larger companies and work. You want to do work with Northrop Grumman? Northrop Grumman has tens and tens of thousands of employees. You're three people. What helicopters or what tanks or what things for the warfighter are you going to build? You might have an innovative technology, but we have lawyers in our group. We have people who understand patent law. We have people who understand manufacturing. We have people who do all kinds of different things within our MBE family that can help you understand that when Northrop Grumman calls on you to make 30,000 widgets in 30 days, if you partner with this company, then you both win. Stop that kind of strike out alone mentality. So once we work with people on operational excellence, then we talk to them about growth and we partner together. We partner together on deals. I had a meeting with a major corporate client this past week, and I took in two women owned businesses with me because we presented a better joint solution than we did singular. Sage was invited to the meeting. I told the corporate client that I can come, but I have a team of people that I work with that can bring you the best solution. And that's where we walked in the door from. And I think we had a much better meeting, more receptivity because of that. So I started off in a business incubator at Bowie State called the Bowie Business Innovation Center, the Bowie BIC. And that was a great foundational program for my company. I was in that incubator for 3 years. So we're still affiliated with them. We go to the programming, we support them. We support Bowie State in their entrepreneurship program. It's giving back is critical. So from wherever I have been fed, I try to go back and feed so the next group can come along with that. So those are probably the two bigger ones. Somebody's going to be mad because I've probably left them out. I apologize for that. I'm all about other businesses growing. You and I have had conversations, and I was on a phone call today with two other women-owned businesses that are looking to be able to grow. We might not be able to do anything together. Someone comes to me, Sage might not have anything, but I bet you I know somebody who does.
Right, exactly.
You give me your capability statement, you can best believe that it's going up on my stickies on my wall. So when an opportunity comes across my desk that I don't know how to do, or it's not in our wheelhouse, I'm like, oh, hey, let me add Nikki here. Let me add this person here and send it to them because that's how we create an ecosystem of sharing amongst businesses.
I love not only you giving back, but it's more than just service, right? This is also how you grow your business by creating these connections. As you said, walking in the door and saying, we collectively can bring a better solution than just my company can bring. So I think it's a smarter way to grow, right? The pie only gets bigger. It's not just like, oh, if you take a piece, then I got a smaller piece. No, it's like, how can we actually grow this pie together? So I think that is the piece around getting engaged and involved in these industry associations, but also the thought of giving back because what you give back is actually going to come back to you in many
Hmm.
ways. So I know one of the areas that you are also involved in is around certifications. And so we're in the midst of, I think, a bit of a cultural revolution around something. Can you talk a bit about how either any of these different certifications have helped your business specifically? I know they're good to have. They help you get shortlisted for lots of opportunities, but can you talk a bit about what you see as the value in certifications for your business, whether they be related to your identity or some of these other industry certifications that relate to you having met very specific criteria?
I'll choose the more tender subject that we've got going on in the world right about now. Right now, there's a lot of focus at the Small Business Administration 8A's business development program, 9-year program with the government. For those in the audience that might not know, that program it's being reevaluated. That's the long and short of it. And they're adding some criteria to what it is. We've been in business for 13 years. We only recently submitted our 8A application back in May of this year. The reason why we did that, and I'll tie it into answering the question, I had good guidance from my time at the Bowie Big, from the business coach that I currently have. He was like, Sonia, you have clients, you have people who are buying from you, you have people, you've got past performance, you know how to build out your team. He said, go for your woman owned cert first. Little bit less challenge in there. So we have the economically disadvantaged woman owned certification. So we leveraged that. But what they always tell us, Nikki, when you show up in the room, you need to be able to do the work. That's first and foremost. Hi, we're Sage Services Group. This is what we've done. Part two, have you done it for anybody else? Yes, here's who we've done it for. And you can call them and you can ask them, and they'll tell you whatever they need to tell you about the work that we can do. My coach also, even before a lot of the certs, he was like, get your GSA schedule. People
Mhm.
were already buying from us. We had past performance. We got our schedule. So when we showed up at the door, and then we got our secret facilities clearance, we know how to do the work. We've got negotiated prices, and we can get in just about any building you want us to be in. Oh, by the way, we're a woman owned business. Oh, by the way, we're a minority or disadvantaged business. Don't lead with that. Can you do the work? So, certification is like lettuce and tomato and cheese on a burger. You can put all the lettuce, tomato, and cheese you want on a piece of bread, but if there's not a burger in there, you basically got a veggie sandwich and nobody wants to eat that. So, we're working a program with Morgan State University doing certification, and we're about to kick that program off again. So, look up the Baltimore Metropolitan Women's Business Center. We're going to be kicking off some classes helping people get certified. But what we always start with is, what do you do? Who have you done it for? Have you made any money doing it? Now let's look and see who at the state level for like MDOT, Maryland Department of Transportation, Prince George's County, Howard County, Montgomery County, Washington, D.C., wherever you are, let's see if anybody's buying what you're selling. If you can't answer that, we don't even embark on the certification, because certification is a lot of paper. It's a lot of details that you not only have to put in to get, you have to keep it up every year and make sure you're not misrepresenting yourself. So if nobody is buying, nobody in the government is buying what you're buying, the government-based certifications probably aren't worth you. Keep an eye on it. Just because they're not today doesn't mean they won't be tomorrow. But we've got finite dollars and we've got finite time. So a lot of ladies were not happy with me when I was like, this doesn't do you anything. It would do you better to focus your time, energy, and resources over here. But if you happen to make it through there, then we start talking about, I have a bias towards Maryland. So I was like, get your Maryland Department of Transportation minority business or disadvantage or small business certification first. Why? Because it's the great proving ground of it. Did you provide good data?
Mm.
If you did not provide good data, then they're going to catch that you didn't provide good data. If they catch that you didn't provide good data, you'll fix it. And their review cycle is much shorter than the Fed review cycle. We had a couple of clients that went through Virginia. So they got through the Virginia certification portion. So do that first. Then normally once you get whatever your county, whatever your state is, your county one is easy. You take the letter, couple of years of taxes, go to your county and get your certification over there. If you pass those, then let's go to the woman owned, or if you're a veteran, go to the veteran owned. Hub zone is always the hardest one because it actually has to do with the number of people that you have and how many hours they're working. So if you are not a person that's good with details, stay away from hub zone business because you have to report that on the regular. And if you miss it, they'll take it and you got to wait a period of time before you can get it back. We've been able to leverage the women owned. And like I said, we put off the 8A program just because we wanted to demonstrate that we could win without it. So we've won some primes, small and medium sized ones without any certification. We've won some of the larger ones based on our women owned. We were just looking for, well, we got the lettuce, we got the cheese and the tomatoes. How about we put some bacon on there? That's how we were approaching the certification process.
That's great advice. And I think what I'm hearing you saying is be very clear and sure about your capabilities. The certifications just kind of add, they enhance your ability
Hmm.
to compete in many areas. So, Sonia, as you think about your 13 years in the business, what was something you wish you had known when you first started Sage?
Oh, dude. I wish I had known how hard it was to find and keep good accountants because I went through a lot of accountants. I even fired myself at one time because I thought I'm an engineer and I'm smart enough to do this. So let me go ahead on and do it myself. Now I fired myself after about 6 months. It's like, I can't do this. And how critical that is because the whole concept of your finances and what it means to be able to get access to capital. You know, you hear everybody use this access to capital phrase, access to capital. It boils down to, can you be trusted with money? And most business owners, we get so excited about our idea and our concept that we forget that, hello, you've been in the red for 2 months, or you should have had more profit than that. And why did you go and make this decision? I wish I had known earlier that it's a lot of accountability that you have to have. I do have a coach and a support, a mentor. We meet every week, and he holds me accountable to my metrics and my KPIs. Because at the end of the day, when you're the CEO, yeah, you're at the top of the list, but you need to be accountable to somebody who can speak into you, and they should have at least done it.
Right.
And so my mentor has built up and sold off several businesses. I think he's on business number 3 or number 4. So I needed somebody who understood that because we want to be in a mode of acquisition when we do come out of the 8A program. So I needed somebody who knew what it meant to acquire. They knew what it meant to sell. So that's the kind of person I really sought out to support me in this endeavor. I love having that level of accountability. I have accountability to my accountant. We use an external account, but she's phenomenal and she's come on board. And I've never felt in the last 3 or 4 years of working with her, I think is the most confident I've ever felt about really being able to explain my numbers. You have accountability to your team. So for anybody that's a founder or CEO and you think, I'm king of the hill or I'm queen of the hill and all roads lead to me, you're setting yourself up if you're not accountable to someone else who can just pull you to the side. I know a lot of people use mastermind groups and they use other things, whatever it is that you use, where you stand flat footed in front of someone and you answer tough questions. It makes you a better leader.
I would agree with that. I think, yes, I'm the accountant, and thank you for the recommendation. Uh, Sonia and I share an accountant, and she is fabulous. I think that accountability piece. So I always say, as an entrepreneur, you meet yourself, right? And so whatever good or bad traits that you have, they come out, and then you're like, would I employ me? If I had an employee like me, would that work out for us? And you got to think about that, right? And you have to be accountable to yourself. You raise a good point around building in accountability amongst others. Maybe you want to think about that idea because at the end of the day, it is your business, but in everything you do, the buck stops with you, but you need to have wise counsel, right? And you are accountable to your team because now these folks are coming to join your vision. Now you're responsible for them and to them in order to help them do what they're supposed to be doing. Like, how can you be of service to them? And if you don't realize that you're being of service to your employees and your team, then you're not going to last long. But it's very easy to be like, well, if no one's asking you those hard questions, it's easy to give yourself a pass.
Yep.
Or it's easy to be very critical of yourself because you don't have a peer that you're having these conversations with, and you think, oh, well, I should be doing XYZ. Well, if you think about your business and where you are in your business, well, maybe you're right where you need to be, or you need to make this tweak in order to make the next leap. So I think what you said is so important is whether you have a coach, an advisor, someone who can help, a mentor, someone who can actually help you achieve whatever dream, whatever goals you set up for your business.
And you got to be okay when your team comes back with something different. I can have in my mind, I was having a meeting earlier today, and two employees were working on something. And I told them, I said, just send me the link. I want to pop in because I know what you guys are working on and you might have questions for me. So I'll pop on. And if you got any questions, I'll answer those and I'll hop right out. Well, I hopped in there and we ended up talking. And I knew what I had envisioned in my mind for them to do. And I worked very hard to not overtake the agenda. So I explained to them why I thought what I wanted to come out of what they were working on. I was like, here's the why. It doesn't have to be the what, but my underlying why for this is here. Because they were telling me, it was like, we don't really like your idea. And I was like, okay, well, I got that. But here's why I want it. I'm not hungry or anything, but I do like food. So maybe that's why I relate it. I know I want something. And here's why, I've got a taste for something salty. I've got a taste for something. This is why I want this. You guys come up with whatever it takes to do. And they will push back. And I give them the liberty to be able to do it. If I have to be the only one that comes up with ideas, that is exhausting. So if there's any employees that are out there looking, find creative ways that they're listening. Let them find creative ways to share when you have something different that you want to offer. And don't be afraid to ask for, well, what is at the root of this? There was a book out one time called QBQ, The Question Behind the Question. So tell me what it is that you are thinking about so that we can bring you the best solution. I went to a design thinking class a couple of weeks ago and came back. I was like, okay, I have this meeting set up. We need to fix our external facing newsletter. And when I finished the design thinking class and flew back that Thursday, when we had the meeting that Friday, I said, pause. They were ready to jump into it. I said, let's back up. What's the problem we're trying to solve here? And I got quiet. And because we facilitate, I found a lot of tools. Some of the people on my team are quiet and some people like to talk. So I gave each one of them sticky pads, sticky notes, and they wrote their brainstorming items on there. So my quiet people would get to think through and write out their ideas, and my talking people would save their energy for later. But they identified what was the problem, and they identified what are the stakeholders, and then they started identifying what is the content and what's the best thing that can happen, what's the worst thing that can happen. All I did was facilitate the brainstorming. When I tell you, Nikki, they came up with not only a development process, they also came up with, here's some other ways we can communicate internally. And here's some other things, because the stakeholders were bigger than just this external facing audience. We had a communications problem. We had a communicating our value problem. And that's just not with clients or future clients or potential clients. That's also for potential hirees.
Right.
We would have come up with a great newsletter, but it never would have solved our problem until we stopped to think, what is it we're really trying to fix here? I'm thankful for my team for letting me be flexible to change that up. I'm thankful for them to bring up ideas. They come up with stuff and I'm like, wow, I hadn't even thought about that. And one of my teammates will always say, you're not supposed to think of everything. But I had run the business solo for so long that I am just really now learning how to embrace, encourage, and support that it's not just me anymore. And that's the beauty of it. There's other people, and give them their flowers and give them their glory when they come up with it. When they hit me with something hard that's uncomfortable, because one of the meetings was about accountability, and I know I'm probably the worst perpetrator of this particular process. And when we're in our tag up status meetings, call me out for when I don't follow the processes that we're putting in place. So we're hoping it works and they don't fire me in the end of 6 months.
Exactly, like you're on probation now. I think that speaks to bringing in people to the team that have some sense of ownership, who want to excel. And I always tell folks, like, you're coming onto the team. I want you to be great. And being great means you might not stay with me forever. I would love for you to, but I want you to develop in a way that works for you. That may means after a while, like you've grown as far as you can grow, and there's somewhere else for you to go. And who knows, I may end up working for you one day. You may be a client, we may be in partnership. If you're not here to do great things, then what are we doing here?
Hmm.
This has to be mutually beneficial. It doesn't benefit me to kind of want to hold all the power and think I can think of all the things because I can't. I haven't done all the things. And honestly, I don't have the time or energy to think of all the things. Why do I work myself out of the job? Because I can go do, there's other stuff I can be doing to move the business forward. I don't need to be doing the job that you are coming in to do. So I think you are just right on with the team. Sonya, as you think about year 13 in the business, you have some ambitious goals. You talked about being in a place of acquisition. What right now would you say are your one or two biggest challenges?
So one challenge is growing at the right rate, having the right kind of discipline around our business development process, and discipline meaning the consistency of the discipline. That's one of our challenges. And getting myself out of the work. Fortunately or unfortunately, I like some of the work that we do. And when you're going after something new, of course, your resume fits in and maybe a couple of other people's and some potentials that when you win it, it's like, oh, I'm just going to dabble a little bit and do this. That's a trust issue too. That's being able to trust and you bring on good people, but you're giving your customers into their hands. And so trying to figure out what that new role is with keeping the customer engaged and satisfied without actually doing the work. So consistent BD, it is the oxygen and blood and all the things that would keep your business alive. We've done well by word of mouth. We haven't done as well with direct business development targeting. So that's what we're working on. Yeah, getting out of doing the work and being a CEO, whatever that really is and looks like.
Those are common challenges. As you think about, again, 13 years at Sage, even more years of that of working in and around federal government. What would you say are some words of advice to those who may be interested in getting into government contracting or who are just kind of starting out? What are some of your words of wisdom for them?
Get clear about what you do and be equally clear about what you don't do. It's so easy to say, oh, I can do everything. But when you make that kind of statement, what kind of check are you writing for you and your company when you claim that you can do everything? Be excited about what you do and then make a decision. Sometimes you might just want to be a consultant. And I don't say just to belittle that. It's a decision that you make. I want to be able to have this kind of client. I want to be able to charge these types of rates. I need this type of control over my time. This is where I need to be. I want to build a company is another lane because from the beginning, you're looking at all your decisions, what you do with your profit, what you do with your time, how you deal with your processes and get them laid out. If you're thinking about other people, that's a mindset that you want to make sure that you lay out. There is absolutely nothing wrong with switching lanes from either one of those. I would tell my girlfriends, don't be in a relationship and wish you left, and don't leave a relationship and wish you stayed. Pick the lane that you're in, work the lane out. And if you ever think you want to cross over and switch, stop and do a real plus minus of what it's going to take to do that. Nobody is going to be, oh, Sonya just wanted to be a consultant and make her money and she's off and oh, that's terrible and she needs to do that. I'm sorry. The day you come to my house, pay my bills and live my life, then you can tell me what to do. Oh, this person's over here building a company. They're never home. They're never spending time with their family. Don't listen to that. Know you and know what works for you. And when you're going to switch, or if you decide to switch, let it be for your reasons, not for someone else's. Because they're not going to be up with you all night while you worrying about how you're going to make payroll for 50 people that's working for you. They're also not going to be the ones that have to be in the airport yet again while you're gone for 2 weeks servicing a client. It just doesn't matter. you've got to be able to sleep and rest with you at the end of the day. And that would be something I tell somebody that they were starting off. If you're gonna make bracelets, you god dang it, be the best bracelet maker you can ever be. Sell it in all the bracelet selling places that you could possibly sell it. If you want to come into GovCon, then you got to have in your mind, I know what I do. I know who buys it. I'm going to show up at their door. And for every 10 phone calls I make, I might make a half a sale. But I'm going to ring the gong, shake the bell, do everything I need to do. I talked to these people for 9 years and they gave me a $10,000 contract. Pennies make nickels, nickels make dimes, dimes make quarters, quarters make dollars. Be proud of what you have. Because if you regret or deny anything that you do, why should any more come to you if you're not going to be happy and satisfied with it? That's all I got, Nikki.
That's a word. I always say what you compromise to get, you compromise to keep. So
Ooh.
start off knowing, like you said, what you will and won't do. Not like from a service element, but really what you will and won't do in business. So I love that where you're saying, why would you want more of that if it's just gonna make you miserable? Doesn't make sense to me. So Sonia, I always like to end with two questions. So first of all, what are one or two songs that are on your power playlist and why?
Okay, I have a very interesting playlist. You could be listening and having worship 1 minute and then tossing it up in the club the next. Donald Lawrence is one of my favorite gospel artists, and he has the song "Prayer of Jabez." And when you listen to the song, and even when you read the scripture, Jabez asked to be enlarged, and he asked that no harm come to him as he's being enlarged. That is critical. When you're asking to grow, don't just ask to grow, but ask for no harm to come, because you can outgrow yourself. So and then the other one is, after I prayed that, now I'm looking at DJ Khaled, All I Do Is Win. That's one of my hype songs before I go, because networking makes me so nervous. I'm listening to that. I tell people I the Tiger. I got Rihanna playing, got all kinds of stuff. I might have some Marvin Sapp playing in there, but I have to listen to like fight songs to get ready to go in and network. It's the dichotomy of who I am. I can love God and I can also love the other music, but it's the moods that I want to be able to win. I want to be able to grow, but I want to be a good person when I'm done with all of it.
That's wonderful. What is one book that you feel has helped you thrive in business?
Whew. This book has helped me not only thrive in business, but in life. It's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And I always fail open on the author, Goldsmith, I think is his last name. And I read that when I was working my first job and I got ready to be promoted. I read that again when I left the nuclear business and went to the space business. I read it when I got to NASA and had my own team of engineers. I went from being a peer to leading my peers. I read it when I first started my business, and I go back and read it again when I get major milestones, because you can never rest on the laurels, because what might have made you successful in one aspect of life can be your Achilles heel. As our company is growing and we're starting to think about more innovations and things to do, being a systems engineer can almost be an Achilles heel. We like to come up with solutions that have like a 90-95% minimal risk success rate with minimal risk. If I'm in a company and we're looking to innovate and grow, we got to be okay with about a 65-70% solution and then iterate. So I have to oftentimes take myself away and become the third party, cast the vision, but watch the team do it and say to them, I'm okay with a 75% solution. Inside, I'm cringing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm okay with a 75% solution. Because if you think about our cell phones, they don't look like they looked when cell phones first came out.
Right.
You buy a phone today, it doesn't look like what the phones came out with last year. They don't wait to perfect. There was someone that gave me the quote, progress over perfection.
Mhm.
So that's why I read that book. That's why it's so critical for me, because I have to recognize, you said it earlier, we have our own limitations as people, and nothing will explore, expose, or exploit your weaknesses than being the CEO of a company.
Exactly. And I think we're going to end right there, Sonia. So, can you tell folks how they can reach out or find you if they want to learn more or just connect?
Sure. You can always reach out. It's Sonya Hopson. I'm on LinkedIn. If you look on our company's website, Sage Services Group LLC.com, please make sure you put the LLC in there. That's another company with a very similar name that sells medical equipment. I get their phone calls all the time. Or you can just reach out and give me a call, 240-380-3504. I don't call myself that often. So I'll share it with Nikki so she can make sure she shares it on the website. But always excited to talk to people about their opportunities. I might not have everything that you need or be able to help you specifically on something, but trust and believe there's somebody in the network who does.
Well, Sonia, thank you so much for your time today. You have left us with lots to think about, lots to be inspired by. I appreciate your friendship, your mentorship, your partnership since we've known each other, and just looking forward to what happens next. So, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nikki. So glad to be here.
All right, take care.
All right.